welcome to Semper Sometimes with Benny. So this is my first video, so just everybody realizes that. This is the first time I'm doing this recording. I'm doing it through Zoom with my man V. V is an active duty Marine, and the reason why he came out today was just kind of talk to us a little bit about, his recruiting career, talking to us about what he's been through, on the streets, give us some advice, because the reason why I'm having these recruiting episodes is because there's so many different ways of doing it, right? Like we all learn, the MC3 skills from the schoolhouse, right? But we all take it and we hone it into our own craft. And then there's a lot of things that we don't really learn until 2 years on down the line. And it's like, bro, if I was a recruiter, now that'd be so different, right? So I wanted to be able to get those experienced heads out there and, not taking away from the 8412, but to hear from the 8411, the recruiter who's out there on the streets, and really be able to find out, what they're doing to help themselves, especially during this crisis, right, of Corona. And also the other thing too is that you're in a totally different AO than I am, area of operation. So, your recruiting duty for you, wherever you're at, might be so different to Jersey. So if people with like minds can come together and help each other out through that, it's really what I'm trying to accomplish here. So without further ado, V, welcome.
I appreciate having me, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out, man. I mean, it really means a lot that you wanted to come out on the podcast, man. So the question that I would really start out with is just who the hell is V? Where did you come from? Why did you join the Marine Corps? And kind of just go off that.
Okay, awesome. Like you said, my name is V. I'm originally from Guam. It's a little island for people who don't know. I joined the Marine Corps in 2012, so coming up on my 9 year. Joined that in San Diego, California. Um, by trade, I'm an avionics guy, so I work on Harriers. Um, the main reason why I joined the Marine Corps is a few. A lot of people just have like this one main thing. I don't know. I have like a couple. So the main reason is the Marine Corps actually liberated Guam from Japanese control during World War II. So they had a massive impact on my culture and my people. So I wanted to pay back to the culture that saved us. And also my uncle was a drill instructor back in '08. So I got to hang around with him and kind of see the culture at that point. So that's what the main influencers were on my decision.
Oh shit! So you just wanted to give back to the Marine Corps for the stuff that it's been able to do for you.
Exactly.
And okay, that's awesome because that's crazy. I had met while I was at recruiting school, there's this female staff sergeant, and the same thing type happened to her while she was living in an apartment building when there was that I think the hurricane in Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and her family evacuated to the roof, and the Marine Corps actually ended up coming and literally saved her life and her family's
Oh,
life. So she ended up actually becoming a Marine, same thing, because she just wanted to be, a part of that legacy and be able to do that for somebody else too. So that's awesome, man. So you said you went to boot camp in San Diego.
yep.
So how is that, man? I don't really know too many Hollywood Marines. So how was that? Clearly you can't compare it because you've never been to Paris Island.
Mhm.
But what would you say? Like, what was that experience like?
It was definitely weird. It's because I've been to Paris Island. I just didn't go to boot camp there.
Yeah, yeah,
So the culture and kind of what you can see is a lot different than San Diego, just right by the airport. So like you've been to BRC, so
yeah.
you've seen the airport, or basic recruiting school, excuse me, or course. But the airport's right there. The world's going on around you, and you can see it, but you're kind of
Yeah.
you're trapped in your own little
Yeah,
bubble.
that's gotta suck. That's
So
gotta suck seeing planes come flying in and all that. That's
yeah.
gotta be, yeah. So okay, so recruiting duty. How did that happen? Did you get volunteered? Did you volunteer yourself? Or what happened with that?
So I actually had it part of my re-enlistment incentive.
Oh, okay.
I originally wanted to go to the drill field, but I was trying to think about longevity of who I am in my career. And I definitely saw that the recruiting aspect and, people skills and building rapport and those things that I'm going to need after my time in the Marine Corps. I think it's going to be more applicable of what I want to do in the future.
Okay, so you volunteered to go on the duty when you
Yep.
re-enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you hate yourself for it? Is it like one of those things where it's like, bro, I wish I didn't do this? Like, what's your take on the whole recruiting duty thing?
asked me a year and a half ago, I would have told you that exact thing.
Okay.
When I was hot and heavy in the streets, that was my mentality because I didn't see the bigger picture of what I was actually doing at that time.
Okay. So before we talk about bigger picture, let's talk about that version of yourself. Um, where what was it in your head going on that you, like you said, you weren't looking bigger picture, but like what was going through your mind at that time that you did feel like maybe this wasn't the right decision, maybe I should have gone DI, like what was going through your mind?
It was just the daily grind, the 14, 16-hour days, no weekends kind of thing.
Hmm.
Just that constant grind of I'm working so hard, but I'm not seeing any result. I'm not yielding anything
Yeah.
that almost tangible in that essence.
Okay. So
That's
what's
kind of all and I'm gonna be honest, is the energy around because people's energy can really affect your
Bro, I'm glad that you brought that up, man, because it's so true, man. And again, one of the reasons why I even started this podcast and I started the recruiting segment is because there's so many, like we both follow the same page. And if you notice, like I put one thing up and all of a sudden it gets a thread of like 200 comments, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many people that are like, oh, this was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And this was trash. And this, it ruined my career. It's like, bro, I don't understand how that could even be possible, right? Because I've seen people go from sergeant to gunny in 3 years,
Yep.
and it's like, and now mind you, they're better for it. Their leadership traits, their stuff like that. So like for me, it's like I hear so many bad stories, and the reason why again I wanted to have people out is because like there's people who are on there, like they just got histed, they want to do their 20 years in the Marine Corps, maybe they don't, whatever, but they just get selected for recruiting duty, and then all of a sudden before they even get to the schoolhouse they have this negative idea that the Marine Corps recruiting duty is going to be the worst 3 years of their life because some dude had a bad time and now he told that bad time to you, so you already go out there on the streets with the oh my god. So for me, it was different for me because I'm a reservist. So I was able to go out on the streets as a reservist, already knowing, So I went to BRC, basic recruiter course, just already ahead of everybody else. I had been on the streets. I already had contact under my name. I already knew how to do all the things, not to the extent of what I would learn, but I already had a basic understanding of, doing interviews and doing paperwork and stuff. So for me, I didn't let the negative attack me because there was right. But it's good that you brought that up, and I'm glad that you said that because it's all about the office, right? You're in an office of 4 people. If there's one person who has a shitty attitude, then it's going to be an everyday cycle of having that attitude. So can you talk a little bit about that, about the mental state and about just your attitude and the office's attitude, I guess, when you first got out there and leading up into that year and a half?
So I believe so. Just to put it out there, I'm not no 12. I wasn't no meritorious gunny, nothing like that. I was just
Yeah.
regular recruiter, just doing his time and going on. Um, the boss's attitude and the way he walks in, I believe, changes the entire atmosphere and kind of the mentality of the recruiters. So when I first came out here, my staff and TO, he was already pushing out. So he really did, he didn't give a fuck at that point, kind of thing. He did his career, he got gunny, he did what he wanted to do. So that was the mentality when we walked in of, it's kind of relaxed and this is recruiting duty. You kind of doing your own thing. Then my new boss took over and he's a hard charger, Chris kind of guy. So trying to grow from that and, kind of like, how do I say it? Just a rebellious phase, I guess. You got a new boss, you're not trying to conform right away to what he's doing. And that kind of affected my mentality as well as the fellow Marines that were with me. Because they were a lot older than me, so they were kind of like stuck in their ways in essence.
So when before you got the new boss, your other boss, Chris, just so you guys don't know, Chris is just the operating system that the Marine Corps uses as a recruiting tactic, right? So like, for instance, I work for a college, they use a totally different product, but every sales company has a product they use to, you make phone calls, do whatever it is. So Chris is the one that the Marine Corps uses, right? So when you had the old boss, was he really not too much caring about putting your data in the system? And he was like, hey, bro, just go find me appointments and contracts. And then, we'll go from there. But then this new guy came in and he was like, nah, everything got to be in the system. And then is that essentially what happened?
Yeah. So the guy was like, just produce and, contracts cure cancer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Everyone says. So you writing contracts, ain't nobody worried about you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the mentality was. Just set appointments and interviews, get people in the chair, do what you got to do.
Hmm.
And then the paperwork and all the nitty gritty stuff we can put on the back end,
Yeah.
which it seems to not just be at my specific office. It seems to be a trend. Talking to my buddies around the nation.
Yeah.
But this new guy took over, and his goal was to be a 12. He was prior on the street before.
Yeah.
So he wanted to be a 12. You gotta put your name out there and do everything by the books.
So here's like I had someone reach out to me and they were like, "Bro, you got to do an episode on F. Chris," and I was just like, "Listen, this is my thing, right? It's the thing is that we have in any job field you have tools, and the thing is you either need to know how to use the tool or you don't know how to use the tool, and the problem is that a lot of people don't know how to use the tool of Macris to be productive and to help you, right? To do the follow up, to schedule these things. Because realistically, bro, does the working file your calendar sort of does it help you? It does. But the problem is that, and I'll tell you right off the bat, right off the rip, bro. I never followed my SNR once. I never followed my work. I never. And I'm just being real. And now, mind you, would I have been so much different or maybe more prepared? I think so. But the thing is, though, for me myself, like, and I don't know about you, like, I'm the type of learner that, like, if I have to learn it on my own, then it's going to take me like a year and a half to 2 years for me to figure it all out. But if I have somebody sit right next to me and show me how to do it, and that's the thing is like all of my senior recruiters, they didn't follow an SNR. They didn't follow that. So I was like, oh, okay. So we're gonna spend this whole entire day planning, and then we're not gonna do none of that the whole rest of the month. All right, word. So, and that's a lot of what happens because you never actually like in BRC, they do a quick class about, hey, this is what it is, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But no one actually shows you how to really use an SNR to the purpose of what it's for and actually how to do it. Because realistically, if you were to put a lot more structure to your day, it would be better, right? But the problem that you also have is that if you all are doing this, then you all have to be on the same page because like how many times have you had like, TCing set up for this time, telephone call, and then all of a sudden your boss is like, hey, no, everybody out of the office go AC. And it's like, okay, well then why did I set up an SNR? Because now you just changed my trajectory for the day. Like, so that's the thing is like, it's a hard tool to use because you really have to use it every day in, day out. But at the same time, it can be a great tool. Like when it comes to the working file, back in the day, you used to have a box with pieces of paper in it that you would take out. And now you actually have this in a system on the computer and you can do that. So it does, but it's really just, I think if there was a lot more training done on it, I think it would be more beneficial. Like, what do you think about that?
No, I agree, especially coming from, just the basic school itself. They're so fixated on hitting the skill steps.
Yeah.
And then when we send these brand new recruiters to hit the streets and it's an independent duty, they're blasting these young men and women about, not doing Macris and not doing this, not doing that, when they barely even know how to get to the SNR book or get to prospecting.
Like, and that's why to me it's like I get it. You're not going to make recruiting school like a year long, but I don't know, man. Like I felt like BRC was just. I felt like it could have been so much more informative. Like I felt like they could have done a lot more about it because and the worst part is that they start off the course. If I at least when I started, my instructor was like, "Hey, listen, you're going to learn all this stuff, and then as soon as you're done learning all this stuff, you're going to go to the streets and somebody's going to tell you that everything we just taught you isn't the real deal." And it's like, wait, what? Like, so like. For me, it's a huge, thing where it's just kind of confusing. But, what was so getting off the Macris thing. So, what was your mentality? Like, how how did you, were you a successful recruiter? Like, what were your, like, were you a good recruiter? Were you like, all right, like, what's your story?
I was successful, because I've been listening to a few of your podcasts. So, at end of my first year, I was on meritorious board,
Oh,
won
wow.
Nick, Rick, and all that stuff. MCRD discharges got me, dog. But at that same time, I was having issues with my spouse because of how much time that I was away. And I didn't know how to really balance, trying to keep up a high APR rate and still trying to, keep my relationship afloat. So that really, shook me during
Yeah.
that time. So I needed to make that decision of, do I give the Marine Corps everything and lose everything, or kind of try to find that balance? So I just turned into your average recruiter, giving you two, sometimes
But
three.
you know what it is? You know what it is though, and that's the thing that sucks, man, is that like that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, like you, like what I say, like so I like just to throw me out there, right? So kind of the same thing as you. Bro, I ended up giving up everything. Like I had a son on the duty, and to the point where like I was in the hospital, and I had a kid on deck, and my wife is literally legs open, about to give birth to my son, and I'm on the phone with my master operations officer, like, yo, Mike, did he make it? Is he good? Is he good? And I'm literally thinking about like my son about to be bored, this kid about to dep, and my boy's like, yo, stop calling me right now. When he deps, I'll send you a text. Literally, as my son came out, I got a text message, yo, he's good. I was like, yo, but like,
Two W's right
it,
there.
but it's like, yeah, right. But like you said, it's so hard to find that balance. But you know what? And this is, people might take me at, for whatever. But I think a huge part of it is that when you do find that balance, your command is mad that you found the balance. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're not giving us what you were giving us. Like, bro, listen. Here's the thing, right? And this is for anybody out there who's a boss, about to be a boss or whatever, right? You have people, right? Like myself, like my boy Tyler, who are heavy hitters. And like my boy, I'll tell you this story, right? So my boy Tyler, when I tell you this dude could go out right now, I could tell him, hey, listen, go get me 4 contracts and I'll give you off 2 weeks. He'll literally, and I did it. And I did it to prove a point.
Mhm.
And he'll literally go out and he'll come back and he'll be like, hey, I got you 4 NWAs. They're going up on Monday.
Damn.
No working applicant. And he did it because number one, he was from the area. He knew where to go. He was on recruiting duty for a minute and he literally could do that. But do you know why he didn't do it all the time?
Because they're gonna expect it.
Because now I'm just going to keep asking him for more. And then on top of that, you have guys in the office who are like, oh shit, if my man Tyler is going to be able to do that, then I don't got to put my two in. So now what happens is you're breeding a, I don't, maybe not, maybe cesspool is not the word, but you're breeding people to say, oh, you know what, he's going to write 4 or 5, so it's all right for me to write 0 this month.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, because it's fucked up. Like, because I remember when I was coming up on recruiting duty, I wrote my first couple of bats, my 4s a month.
Mhm.
And I was like, I was bragging about it. I was like, yo, I can't believe I did this, da, da, da. And then my boy Danny, he was like, even my boss, he was like, Bennett, why the fuck are you happy about writing 4? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I wrote 4. He's like, bro, you wrote 4 because the rest of your office didn't do their fucking job, bro. He was like, you literally are holding up this team because your office, your Marines that you work with don't want to work.
Mhm.
He's like, you should never be happy about writing 5, 6 in a month because you shouldn't have to. That's not a thing. He's like, everyone in the office should realistically be trying to write 2 a month because then you guys can get it actually, because everybody talks about, the lifestyle. But the problem is that you only have 1 or 2 recruiters that are really out there grinding every day. But then at the same time, and I get it, it's probably hard for the command because the command needs those contracts. But at the same time, like, I had this guy who used to call us, and it was like every time you wrote a contract, he'd call you. Bro, listen, with all due respect, I don't give a fuck that you're calling me, bro. What does that mean to me? Like, what does that mean? Hey, thanks, man. I don't care. I don't care, bro. Like, you calling me is 10 minutes. I could have been on the phone with somebody who was a contract. Like, give me time off with my family. Give me a week off, and let me take my leave. Like, bro, when I left recruiting duty, I had 120 days of leave. Like, and then you can't sell all of it back. You can only sell so much, and then you lose it. So it's like, bro, like, if you were to, and that's the thing too, right? Is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? But a lot of people, they'll come out on the street and they'll see this recruiter and they'll come out on the street and they'll be like, you know what, bro, I want to be a hard charger. I want to kill it. And then all of a sudden, month by month goes by and they realize, like, yo, this dude over here writes 4, 5, 6 a month, but he's still here every night with me. This dude works 7 days a week with me.
Mhm.
And then the thought process is, wait a minute, I can get off the duty in 3 years and I'm gonna still have the ribbon and I didn't work nearly as hard. So like that's the thing, is because you have people, like someone commented on this, on that status, they were like, oh, I'm gonna do the job and then whatever, we'll just get RFC'd or whatever. Bro, I don't know about you, but I've seen dudes go a year without writing contracts. And yeah, bro, I've seen dudes go a year without writing contracts and nothing happens. And then you hear those words, oh, he's gonna get RFC'd. Bro, if he was gonna get RFC'd, he would have already been RFC'd.
Mhm.
Like he's not going nowhere. And it's upsetting because you have those recruiters out there who really do want to be better, but now what are you doing to make them better? You know what I mean? So like what experiences did you have with that? Like, do you feel like if maybe you were given the opportunity to have more time off, that you would have continued to write? Or did you feel like, you just dropped off because, bro, if I'm gonna write 4 and get shit, I might as well just write the 2.
Exactly, and you're 100% correct. Well, what's in it for me at the end of the day? If I'm
Yeah.
writing using fours and no one else is writing anything, what am I doing? I'm just burning myself out. I'm not building a bucket anymore. Like just having like people on standby just in case. And there's no incentive. Your boss man's gonna be like, what else you got? You know,
Yeah.
so day in day out,
And
you're there
and
grinding. So whether you grind or not, you're still gonna be there and you're still gonna be doing the same thing. So it's a tough situation because especially from a command level, it's hard
yeah.
to implement rewards at the end of the day when not everyone's firing on the same cylinders. So that's kind
Yeah, and that's
of
and
that.
that's really what it is, man. And is that firing on the same cylinders thing?
Mhm.
That's the problem. And for me, it's so annoying because it's something that affects me, right? Is
Mhm.
that if you think about it, right, on that Facebook page that we follow,
Yep.
so many people say, "Oh, recruiting duty isn't the Marine Corps." You know what the problem is? The reason why the recruiter you think that is because when you get on recruiting duty, all of a sudden you believe in your head that you're no longer a Marine. You just believe all of a sudden that, like, oh, now I'm a salesman. No, that's the problem. If you carried on your Marine ethos, your everything you've learned from point A to point B, and we were all firing on one cylinder, then things would be different. But the problem that you have, and maybe there is no fix all to it, maybe there is no cure to this problem, is the problem that you have is that recruiting duty quickly shows you the shitbags from the guys that actually really care about being a leader and doing their day. Because people like me and you, we're going to continue to fight every single day. If like my mentality was, oh, I don't have an appointment for tomorrow. Guess what? I'm not going home. And nobody taught me that. I just knew, okay, as a Marine, we have a mission, and that mission is recruiting. So that means that if I don't do this, then I've failed every day.
Mhm.
Okay, do Marines fail? No, we don't. Okay, well, then I only have one option, and that's to not fail, which
Exactly.
is to write contracts. So, like, the reason where I'm going with that is that, like you said, the unit, the office, and that's the worst part, right? It's not even just your office, because then what happens is, say you do have that office where you have those 4 or 5 guys, and you guys are writing contracts simultaneously. You guys are on all cylinders. Your shipping is good. Your content is good. Well, guess what? Now there's some other RSS amongst the state who's not doing that. So now you are losing your dep and holds, you're losing your momentum and all those things.
Exactly.
So it's like, and I get it, and now thinking about it, I get it from the command standpoint, because it's like, okay, well, what do we do? Because now if I do let this dude go a week away, but and I think really it just comes down to the accountability piece. I think there's a huge lack of accountability among Marines on recruiting duty. But I think it's also, if I and my thought, maybe it's just the lack of, I don't want to say parenting because we're not, children, but I think it's just the lack of, hey, you know what, if you don't write, you're gonna get relieved. And then the guy never gets relieved. And then I'm like, okay, well then none of us are getting relieved, so we might as well not work. Like, who cares? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
So essentially, what it comes down to is we're not sending PFCs out here, and we're not sending lance corporals. The accountability piece shouldn't have been brought up to begin with. You know what I'm saying? These are sergeants and staff NCOs that know how the Marine Corps functions and knows what the expectations are. But we kind of revert back for some reason, and we just turn to this child because mommy and daddy are not watching at that time. Now, I'm
Yeah,
not saying I was this great recruiter. I wrote a couple zeros in my life. Everyone has a rough month,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I didn't be like, oh, it's okay. It's not gonna,
yeah,
roll down the shoulders. It's whatever. I came back with contracts to trying to compensate for that loss that I took, so I can give it to the command.
yeah.
But it's more of people finding this excuse of, oh, my AO is hard, or my lists suck, or that's what it comes down to. I've said it before. You know what I'm saying? We've all said it when we're having a rough
Bro.
month.
Yo, it's crazy that you say that because I had to I have my phone over here. Yo, because the other day I was listening to a podcast, and like I said, man, there's so many times where like you're on the duty, and then 2 years later you're like, bro, I wish I listened to this podcast. I wish I read this book 2 years ago, right? And this dude said, hold on, because this dude, what he said messed me up. Um, he said, eliminate your own excuses. And that's
Mm.
the reality of it. Like you just said, bro, so many times you'll have people, oh, my list suck. Oh, my area sucks. Oh, my this sucks. And it's like, okay, well then figure it out. Okay. Because at
Yep.
the end of the day, like if you say, like when like people say all the time, oh, my list sucks. Okay, well then here, like I gotta ask you a question, brother. If your list sucks, why do you TC all day? But now here's the problem, though. This is the problem, right?
I already
The
know where.
problem is that, and if someone's going to ask you that question, your master guns or your mass sergeant, someone's going to ask you that. Hey, Marine, if your lists suck, then why do you make TCs all day? Because you put me on for 2,000 TCs, bro. Like, and that's the thing, and that's why it's like, bro, that's why the whole McChris thing is effed up. And I would love for somebody to explain this to me. Maybe we need to think about things differently because the reality of it is that if you, and I know this was when I was a staff in CRC, right? You have to, the state, the ops clerk, I'm sorry, the OPSO, they put you as an office on for this many TCs, right?
Mhm.
Now, the thing is, though, is that, and this is where, I'm going to say the word fraud comes in, because if you're not really making those TCs and you're just jumping your numbers up, now the office is on for a higher total of TCs, right? But then you start playing this game of, okay, well, hey, everybody only put in so many contacts, so our numbers go down. So now McChris can't simply work the right way because everybody's putting in not real shit, right? But
Exactly.
now here's the problem, though. Again, we're not when these people are doing their job of looking at these numbers and accounting for it, right? You have to have that conversation. Hey, Master Guns, Sector A, predominantly for the past 2 years if you go by the numbers, Sector A does not get contracts from the TC objectives, and it's not because he doesn't make TCs. It's just because number one, there's no landlines in that area. Number two, it's a poorer area, so they actually really don't have too much cell phones or anything like that. And it's just we've just realized that predominantly nobody answers the phone and we get no answers. Because like I had a dude in Sector A in my old office who literally this dude could make 250 phone calls in a day and he would not get one contact.
Mm.
So then the argument was, well, he got to make TCs. Okay, but if he sits here all day and he makes TCs, it's not going to do nothing for him.
Wasting time.
But if that same dude goes out to his AO and we found out that if he makes 11 HVs, he'll get one interview. Guaranteed. We found this out that in his AO, if he made 11 HVs, home visits, he would get one guaranteed same day interview.
Hmm.
Now, mind you, though,
I'll take
a-
that.
but now the thing is, though, now the argument comes in. Well, what about his time, devil dog? Okay, well, do you want me to make 300 phone calls, which is going to take me all day long, and then I'm going to be like lethargic behind the phone? Or do you want me to actually get out there, beat feet, and be able to have a same day interview more often than none?
Mhm.
So like, and that's the thing is like everyone says that thing. Oh, know your AO, seek self improvement. Okay, well, what do you do when I know my AO? I've seek self improvement, but you tell me I got to go make 1,500 CZs.
Mhm.
No, like that's why, and that's something that always confused me. Is like, bro, why do you care? Why do you care where I got the contracts from? Why? Why? Why do you care?
Oh yeah.
Now I understand the numbers. I understand that we need to understand numbers because it's a numbers game. I get that because you want to know, hey, okay, how many TCs does it take me to get a combat, to get me an appointment, to get me an interview? Those are all great things to know. But if you have a dude that is better on the DC game where he can digitally communicate and and he can do all those things, then some AOs are just naturally not going to be good for that activity.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
It comes from the guys, the head Marines somewhere locked in the dungeon somewhere that was a recruiter since Vietnam. You know, TC's worked for them. Stuff like that. But they don't realize, especially with COVID, this past year, that TCs don't really work anymore, and they want us to DC using Facebook. But in reality, most of these kids don't even know what Facebook is anymore.
Yeah,
They keep doing all these training and all taking up all this time training on stuff that isn't even applicable to today's generation.
yeah,
Big TCs, the call RD says United States Marine Corps. So 9 times out of 10, it's scam likely, or they're not going to pick up because they already know who it is.
yeah.
So it's more of we're training on the wrong thing. I like the idea of numbers and accountability and things like that, but I think they're just going upon it in a completely different approach than what is going to work.
Well, yeah, and then the thing too is that like there's some people who are just so caught up in this numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had this guy who all of a sudden he checked into the unit and he was like, listen, we're going to give 125% of our objectives. Why? Why? And you know what that did? It did nothing. It literally showed that the state, before this guy had this idea, the state was in a good place. Then you come in the place and you're like, hey, 125 objectives. Now, all you did was now these Marines, instead of focusing on contracting and focusing on finding quality, now all they're focused on is a number. Because, oh, well, even though I have 3 appointments for tomorrow, if this dude tells me that I didn't make my TC objective, then you know what? I'm gonna get in trouble. It's like now you're focusing on the wrong thing. So, so what advice do you have? Like, what kind of I know. So when you were grinding, right, before that whole thing happened with your family and your wife, and we'll get into that. When this was going on, what was your mentality? How did you find these people? Like, what was your go-to?
So I was big into the seniors, and
Oh, really?
I probably got older, but when I first hit the streets, I looked like I was 17 max. So I used my image of being young and being successful, quote unquote, to my advantage within the school. You know what I'm saying? Giving them an analogy of we're only a few years apart, and I've done this, this, and this already, and the people that my age are still in the same town, working at the same Zaxby's, and doing the same thing every single weekend. And that was kind of my strategy behind it, is giving them that proof source of within a few years you can catch up to probably your parents, uh,
Hmm.
regarding success, maybe more tangible than anything. Certain ALs are more likely to be attracted to tangibles versus intangibles, just based on the culture that they come from. So that's kind of where I went with it. I I was big on the pool program, taking care of my guys, making sure they ate, they had shoes, things like that. So, and those kids are in school all day, so they only have time after. So that's what takes up most of the day, and that's why I was getting home late, is trying to set appointments, take care of the pool, X, Y, and Z, be an A gunner. So all those things add up, and especially for like you were a boss man, so you had to make sure the recruiters and the entire pool was good, and they
Yeah.
expect you to fit it all into one day.
And that's the thing, man, is that and it's a hard thing, right? Because talking about the time management and the balance, right? And you say these things, right? And we're talking about how, like, okay, well, what can the command do, right? But then you think about, and this is something that I had on my mind the other day, right?
Mhm.
If you look at like the army, right? You look at the army, the navy, they literally they have the time off, right? But now they don't give up. about it. They don't care because they're like, oh, well, like the army, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but from what I was explained to and what I've seen for 4 years is that the army cannot work past 5 o'clock on a Friday and they are not allowed to be in the office Saturdays and Sundays. So
Hmm.
the thing with that is that okay, but if you look at the numbers, the army has missed their goal for like however many years. Like they're down. So now it's like that question of okay, well, if your commanding officer or your RI decides that you know what, we're going to give you guys off Sundays no matter what, is that a good thing or is it not a good thing? And is it going to cause complacency or is it not? So that's why it sucks because like I think, and that's why I think it can't be a command level thing. I think it has to be unit discretion and it needs to be unit cohesion and it needs to be that individual office that staff and CO makes the decision on, hey, this is where I'm at, and we can afford to take a day or two off because I have to give my guys that time back with their families. Because that's a huge. So I think that's where it needs to be at. Because the reality of it is that, like I was telling you about my boy Tyler, right? Or Taylor, my bad. My boy. So when I got to so me and him were reservists together, right? And we were boys. And eventually me and him actually, and I ended up becoming his boss, right? And when I remember the first day I got out there, the question that I asked him was, hold on, this freaking computer, man, this is really annoying. So so one of the first questions I had asked him was, "Hey man, when are you going on leave?" And he was like, "Stats aren't." And I was like, "Bro, come to my office." I pulled him in the office. He was like, "Doug." I was like, "What's up?" He was like, "Bro, you know I'm not going on leave." I was like, "Why not?" I was like, "Bro, you're a heavy hitter." I was like, "And you're about to get," I was like, "Aren't you getting married next weekend?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, so you and your wife weren't planning on doing a honeymoon or anything?" He was like, "Well, I would love to, but they're not going to say anything. They're not going to let me go." So I was just like, "All right, listen." I was like, "How about I make a deal with you right now?" He was like, "What?" I was like, "How about I make a deal with you right now that you write me four, and as long as they contract by this date, then I'm gonna talk to the CEO about giving you a week of leave." And he was like, "Bro, you can say that, this, and the third." I was like, "You know what? Stop." So I pulled my phone out. I called my CEO. I was like, "Hey, sir," I was like, I have so and so on the phone right here with us. And I was like, "Are you okay with him writing us four? And then you'll grant him a week of leave?" He goes, "I'll put it in the system. I'll approve it right now."
Oh shit.
So now because I gave this to him and I said this, bro, literally no lie, he walked out the door. He came back and he had four kids ready to go. And then people were like, "Oh, well, that's just because he had him in his back pocket, bro. He ain't ever gonna do that again for you." I was like, "Okay, watch." And no lie, the next 6 months that I was a boss there, he would come in the office every morning and he would ask me the same thing. He'd be like, "Hey, Stasson," I'm like, "What's up, bro?" He'd go, "What do you need for me to be home by 4:30 with my wife and kids so we could be sitting down having dinner tonight?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Bro, you already know." I was like, "I need you to give me your NWAs that you owe me for the month." And I was like, "I need you to have appointments." So then what ended up happening, bro, and this is like, I'm gonna tell you, bro, this is like the smoothest office I ever worked in. Now, mind you, in my personal opinion, do I think it was the easiest AO in the whole entire state? Yes. But the office they came together as a group, right? And what they would do is they would say this. They'd be like, "Hey, listen, you have appointments on Tuesdays. You have appointments on Wednesdays. You have appointments for Thursdays.
Hmm.
So if you can swing two for the same day, then you'll hold yours off until Thursday in case we need it as a backup."
Yeah.
And then they were able to make sure they had this. And then as an office, we were all leaving the office like 5:30 in the afternoon some days, or some days we'd be later, right?
Hmm.
But what happened is that it became this thing where it was like, "Hey, I need to have this many NWAs by Thursday. Who has them? Who do we have to call in?" "Oh, word." And then I would be able to call my command and be like, "Hey, we're ahead of our objective by this many. I'm gonna get the guys off Sunday," or whatever it is. So it ended up breeding this thing where my boy literally was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take another week off," or "I want to take another week." And then And then I brought the same. So then when I went to be a staff in SOIC somewhere else, I brought the same mentality there. And these guys, when I went to this office, it was my original office that I was a recruiter at. When I was first there, they had missed mission for 10 months before I came back as the boss. 10 months they went no mission, right? So the first thing I did was is I made an agreement with them. I was like, listen, I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told them over there. If you write me 4, you get a week off. And all of them, and they were my boys, these guys, because I was a recruiter with them. They were like, bro, that shit ain't real. I was like, I promise you. And literally, no lie, my boy who went from not writing bats at all started writing 4s, 6s, and just killing it because I was like, okay, go take your week off. Hey, if you write this, you have Saturdays and Sundays off. So I was able to give him that incentive, and that was it. So I think what I'm saying is that people need to be, and unfortunately, people don't understand this, or maybe they do, but they forget it. On recruiting duty, the only reward I want is time off.
That's all we want.
Because bro, it's like I have all these plaques and shit on my wall in my downstairs where my family's like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, that's 9 months of me not seeing my kids. Like that's really what it is, right? And a lot of these people go back to the fleet and they just throw them shits away. They're like, I don't want to remember recruiting duty. I don't want to remember the, not being home for 3 months. So what made, so you said you were having some issues with your wife and stuff. So what happened that you were like, you know what, I need to focus more on my marriage than I do on this recruiting shit?
So it was like, Friday nights we get off, obviously it's gonna be a little later in the day. So, taking her out to dinner, going do whatever, and me having to step out in the middle of freaking dinner so I can talk to this mom to get PC, so I can set this appointment for tomorrow because I need something for tomorrow. It wasn't just a one incident thing. Is a combination of time and just constantly in and out, making phone calls at 11 o'clock at night, making sure the kid's still good for MIPS. So it was that thing, and it's more of me not explaining what recruiting duty was to her on the front end, and paying the consequences on the back end. Because I assumed that she knew everything that I knew, and what I was doing day in and day out. That I never briefed her on it. I never really made her understand what it is to be a recruiter, because she's a Marine, but being a Marine and being a Marine recruiter, the lifestyles are completely different.
Bro, and that's the thing too, is like every time, and I found this when I was a recruiter, I found this when I was a staff at SOIC, when someone would check in, the first thing I would do is like, bro, I would ask them, I'm like, hey, have you deployed? And it's 9 times out of 10, it would be yes. And I would say, listen to me, right now in your head, your wife's head, oh, I've been through a deployment, this ain't shit.
Yep.
Get that the fuck out of your head, because on a deployment, guess what? Your dude's going for 7 months, you cannot see him. When there's someone who literally is 5 minutes away in an office, but you can't see them every single day, that shit's 100 times worse, because now you're like, bro, he's here, but he's not here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too. And talking about that, right? One of the biggest things too is, and I would tell this one dude, and his wife would make Facebook statuses about work. His wife would be like, I don't see my husband, and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just go up to him and I would show him the Facebook status. I'd be like, and I would always do it when he wasn't working. And then I would show him the Facebook status. I'd be like, bro, your wife is mad right now that you're not home, but said you ain't got shit for anything tomorrow. And I'd be like, bro, if you find me a kid to come in tomorrow, you can leave right now.
Yeah.
But you're not. And the worst part is that if you were to ask this wife why she thinks her husband isn't home, she'd say, oh, well, because he's working. No, he's not. He's just sitting with his feet up on TikTok. Like, and that's the thing, is talking about the balance thing. And that's why it's so hard. It's like, okay, well, does keeping Marines at work and in the office all day do anything? Okay, maybe not. Okay, well, then what do I do? Because if I send them home, I ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
Like, like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about that?
So at least my perspective, and what I've seen throughout my time, is a lot of recruiters, when they're at work, they work for this amount of time, and then they're just chilling with the boys at the end of the night. Because I remember you saying, drinking right after work, you're not going home right away.
Yeah.
And I've fallen victim to that too. Saying like, I think the reason why I stayed after work longer than I was supposed to is because when I get home, I don't want to talk. And the boys that are there, they know what I'm going through. So we're just shooting the shit, you know, basically just venting to each other. And that's how that camaraderie is built. But at that time, I was a young recruiter and I didn't realize what the effects were going to be long term.
Mm-hmm.
And I was more concerned about me and my mission and why the fuck it, you know, at that time, why me kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of recruiters don't explain that to the wives because they don't think they're going to understand the hardship of being in the, you know, mean streets. So
So what were the, if you don't mind me asking, like what were the
Mhm.
hardships that you've dealt with on the duty?
So my wife left me. She completely moved out. The house was bare. You know, we got into an argument and she left. And then at that point, I just drinking took over. I didn't care anymore. You know, because she was the one that, you know, making sure that I was eating right and doing all these things. And then when she left, that's kind of how it went downhill. And I think that's a big thing for recruiters to realize is, you know, it was kind of off topic, but I want to make sure we hit it, is fucking eat. Don't eat McDonald's, eat food. Because
Yeah.
then that's what helped me out, was just eating, honestly. Slamming monsters every day ain't gonna help nobody.
Bro,
Like,
and that's the
I
thing,
still do it,
man.
but it's not helping nobody.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man, is because especially on recruiting duty, like a lot of people throw the gym away a lot. And you know, and what's crazy now, again, being out of, you know, off recruiting duty, I go to the same gym every single day. And now that I'm hitting this gym every day, I'm hitting the gym for like an hour and a half. I'm realizing the amount of people that come up to me and just talk about my t-shirt. They'll be like,
Right.
yo, where'd you get that shirt from? Da, 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 da. Oh, were you in the Marine Corps? And I'm like, I don't know why I didn't. Now, mind you, you'll hear from every mother effer, hey, go to the gym, use it as your time. But at
Mhm.
the same time, if I go to the gym, right, and then I come back with no appointment for tomorrow, the first thing you're gonna say is, well, what were you doing there? Double dog? Why were you at the gym? Bro, you have to. That's the thing, is that like, and you know what's funny is everyone uses that term, you know, 90 days. You need 90 days of data to do anything. Okay, well then why don't you let me hit the gym for 90 days straight every Monday at this time so I can actually meet my populace, meet my grads, meet my kids, because my boy, the guy I was telling you about, that's what he would do. Bro, he would go to the gym and he literally he never needed a spot because he's a big dude. And he would just have kids spot him. And then after they spotted him, he would just start talking to him.
Yeah.
And then he wouldn't try to get an appointment or nothing. And then what he would do is after a couple of days or weeks or whatever of them knowing him, they would be like, hey man, what do you do? And then he'd be like, oh, I'm a Marine Corps recruiter. And then they would be like, wait, what? And now, because he never tried to recruit them, they were like, oh shit, dude, you sound awesome as fuck, da da da. And then he would do an interview, and this is the funniest shit, bro. So I'm not condoning this, right, to anybody. I'm not saying, hey, go do this, right? But the funniest shit, bro. So I walk into work one day and the air conditioning doesn't really work in this office. So everybody in the office is in PT gear, the pain and weakness leaving the body shirt. And then the next day I come in, same thing. The next day I come in, the same thing. And I was like, the guy I was taking over for, I was like, yo, Gunny, I was like, y'all not wear uniforms here? He goes, nah, bro. The air don't work. That shit too hot. And I was like, what about the command? He was like, bro, we're 2.5 hours away. Nobody coming to see us. And if they do, they call us to make sure we're here. I was like, oh, okay. So now, then they came to interviews and they were still not wearing their uniform in interviews. And I was like, listen, I don't like that just because of who I am. I was like, I don't, that's the first image people get. So then all of a sudden, there was one day I had all the Marines in uniform, and this poolie comes walking in the office and Stats, he said, well, Stats Sergeant Bennett. I was like, what's up, man? He goes, can I talk to you? I was like, yeah. I was like, come to my office. I closed the door. I'm like, what's going on, man? And he goes, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, why? He goes, I've been a poolie for a year and I've never seen all the Marines in uniform. I was like, wait, what? He was like, I've never seen this. And I was like, well, let me ask you a question, man. I was like, how does that make you feel? He goes, well, my recruiter is always in the gym. So I thought that you guys were just always working out. So I thought that's why you guys just wore this, PT uniform. So he's like, I felt great about it. And so this dude would conduct every interview. Now, mind you, if parents were there, he would put like maybe a polo on or something, or he would put his uniform on. But when it came to interviewing kids, dude, he would do a full workout with a kid and then bring him in the office, sit down with him, and then do an interview with the kid. And then he really didn't have a lot of kids who said no. And it was because that's who he was as a person. So I think a lot of what happens is that we get so bent out of shape around these numbers that we forget, okay, well, why don't we utilize the gym? Because then you would have a lot less pool discharges because you're actually finding these kids in a gym. You're not finding them in, somewhere else. So I think that's something that we forget about because we talk about it at BRC. They're like, hey man, go to the gym, get a schedule in, get da, da, da. And it's like, okay, but I'm never allowed to do that. I'm never allowed to because if I don't have a contract for tomorrow, someone's gonna be like, hey bro, what are you doing at the gym?
Mhm.
But then when I fail a PFT, I'm in trouble because I wasn't at the gym.
Exactly. Now, hour at the gym. I'm gonna be honest, because I've been on the streets for almost 4 years. An hour at the gym is not gonna change anything. Whether you throw,
Yeah,
whether you're
yeah, bro. You could be
somebody
doing
or
25 minutes at the gym or 25 minutes outside or pool PT. And that's the thing is like you don't got to be going to the gym for an hour and a half. You could be
exactly.
doing like a quick CrossFit workout, some squats, some sit-ups, some this, and the third. Throw an EMOM together, and freaking there you are, freaking 20 minutes, and knocking it out. But it's just having that time and that balance because it just needs to
Mhm.
be done.
Yeah.
So why were you on the streets for so long?
So I got extended to go out to the officer selection team.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I'm at right now.
So how was that? How's that experience?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So it's still the same concept. You're still prospecting, you're still screening and processing these young men and women, but they're a lot more mature. They know what they want. They come prepared. Like these kids know more about the program than probably some of the recruiters. So they're coming in prepared in a suit and tie, ready to go. Got the resume, and they know what they want. We just got to figure out, how bad do they want it. We honestly we turn away more kids than we do contract because they're just not at the level where we need them to be.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And that's one thing that I wish that enlisted side got to a little bit more is making it, hey, you don't qualify, dog. Like you're not good enough right now, maybe in the future, and giving it that that smoke screen effect of this is prestigious, which we are, but a lot of recruiters come off very desperate when they're sitting on that nut that it kind of loses the value of what we expect it to be.
Bro, that's the truth, man. Is that like you like so that was the problem with me is that like I came off like I didn't give a f a lot, but then for me it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that I worked was and I learned this from the old way of doing recruiting duty. But I would ask you your plan and then I would destroy your plan. Like I would make you feel like